We're ranking melees again. Yeah, I kind of did like the swords, axes, and spears, and then stopped because it was pretty clear people didn't want these. But I've gotten some more comments, and honestly, I feel like I should finish off all the melees, and here's why I stopped. So, some of the melees that we're going to be ranking today are pretty not great. So, I did not use these when I was learning the game, or ever, and I felt very unqualified to record this, but I've done a little bit more research. I've looked at the numbers of some of these and just skipped them, but I have tested lots of melees that I'd never used before, and I gave them a fair crack, and my answer is that most hardware weapons are not great. So here's how we're going to be ranking these today. We're going to be ranking them based on overall usefulness in the entirety of the game, which means the Baron's going to be S tier for sure. I'm going to discuss those as we go, just so you get the full picture, and those who skip to the end will be misinformed because they didn't watch, and that's their fault. But I also want to talk about these weapons based against each other. That's why I am ranking them individually as like hardware, size, etc. I don't want to rank these on the scope of all melees because most of these would be D or F tier. So let's start with something fun and easy. Fury and S tier. It is the best hardware in the game. That's not going to surprise anybody. It's actually a weapon that I'm excited for people to get as their first mythic weapon, as it'll make every mythic weapon acquisition easier. Yeah, that's how I say that sentence. Every mythic Storm King fight easier after that because it's the best weapon for the Horn. Now, following that is actually the Surround Pound. It's not like, yeah, you know what? Okay, all right. As far as hardware, specifically hardware weapons go, I'll put it in S tier because it's actually really good crowd clearing with the heavy attack. It can clear a lot of enemies and it's pretty fun. And it's actually pretty good if you just swing it normally, and it is the best weapon for the Horn, as I would imagine. See, for the longest time, that was the understanding. I have not tested this thoroughly myself. I did some testing. It was inconclusive. I've had some people claim that the Baron is also very good for the Horn. Regardless, they're both pretty good for the Horn if you just need to use something. And the Baron is the only weapon in the game that have triple movement speed. So by that metric, it's an S tier weapon. I've used it in pretty much every weapon loadout I have ever used because moving faster is more fun. It's just it's it. And especially now that we have a utility slot, which means we kind of have 4 hotbar slots. If you use wafers or coconuts, you can just put those off to the side. If you want to eat animal meat or corn or whatever to heal yourself, that can be off to the side. It means the Baron just has no excuse to not be in your hotbar at all times. And for that reason, I'm going to put it in the best S tier slot. I feel like every loadout will always benefit from this, and I feel like you should have it. So yeah, Baron and Surround Pound, both pretty good for the MSK. The Fury is the best for the MSK, and the Fury can actually lunge, so it's pretty good for movement as well as the Baron. So let's get into the the normal ones. Vindertech Slammer is one of those weapons that I just skipped. I looked at the numbers and I had already been testing hardware weapons. It was like, yeah, C tier is as low as this tier list goes. We already skipped a lot of these weapons because they're completely obsolete. These are just blue or purple or less weapons that have better legendary versions that, like these crowbars, might do damage, but you should always use the legendary copy. So yeah, Vindertech Slammer, pretty not great by my understanding. If anybody wants to defend any of these, comment down below. If Beast has it totally rocking out and he's totally, sorry, what? I've been recording a lot of videos today. If Beast, I got my brain fried. If Beast is ever totally wrong and needs to test something out and he's off his rocker, that's what I was trying to say. That's why I got that confused. Leave a comment. But yeah, again, Jigglypuff, thank you, chat. Twitch link is down below if you guys want to come and mess with me while I record. Yeah, Doomhammer, pretty not great. Slow swinging, not enough damage. Ben's Warcry. Dragon's Fury, I'll give it B tier. You know, it's okay. It's fire. It's got some good swing speed on it. You can pair it with Luna and maybe cheese it a little bit. It works. Husk Stomper, honestly, as far as hardware goes, I'm still gonna put it in S tier. I can't. That's too high. For damage in the overall game, it's an A tier weapon. It can actually have like crit hits cause an explosion, so you can run this with double attack speed with, I believe, the hardware Tank Penny. No, she's damage. Guardian Bull in the lead for that extra crit rating. It's actually a pretty good boomer if you're trying to activate that with Totally Rocking Out. You can even run it with attack speed and crit rating just to boom more often. It's a pretty good weapon. It actually hits pretty hard. It's not the best crit explosions melee in the game, but it does all right. And the Husk Warper. This is a weapon I've always wanted to love. This weapon is meant to just you do the heavy attack, it sucks enemies in and they take damage and supposedly die. Mine never do. I've ran this with really generous totally rocking out builds. I've brought this to the 164 players because that is where weapons should be tested. I feel like these weapons should be paired up against the hardest enemies in the game because many melees can handle those enemies and the Husk Warper cannot. For lower level missions, if you're a lower level player, that's totally fine. This weapon will be super fun to use, and in fact, I encourage you to use it while you can, because as you progress through the power levels, it will stop doing its job. Just like I always used to love using the Spyglass because it one-shot the blasters and it felt so good to use, but it does not do that in the 160s anymore, and I miss it. So use this weapon while you can. It's not gonna work forever. Lead Sled, very similar to these other ones. I've had some very big fans of this weapon. It's pretty not great, maybe high B tier. It did good damage. You can lunge with it, which is kind of cool, but it did not stand out in any way, so I'm just gonna leave it there. I don't know what this thing is called. I actually don't. Let's find out together because it actually impressed me. I leveled up a copy and I think did I recycle it? Oh no, that's usually not a good sign. What? No, hold on. It had double, was that the pipe down? Oh, it might have been the pipe down. Uh-oh, that's different. Oh, no, there it is. Yeah, Mr. Red. Yeah. Because double attack speed with the proper element and affliction actually did pretty okay. Hardware weapons tend to have high single target like base damage. And it was okay. You know, nothing astounding. I didn't run off and make a video on it, but I can tell you here today, it's kind of worth your time. This is another weapon where I don't even know the name of it. I looked at the stats and was like, never mind. Smasher Basher is pretty okay. I'll put it in like mid B tier. It can swing at an all right speed, do all right damage. It's all right against the Storm King's Horn specifically. If it's the only weapon you have and you need to be if you need to be helpful in the Storm King fight, that will do some damage. It did not impress me for regular targets, but it's there, and not as much as Mr. Red. And the 6 foot under. Again, you can have double movement speed on this, which used to be, I think, the only melee with double movement. It used to be really good for that, and then the Baron eclipsed it, made it completely obsolete. But it can also be pretty good with affliction, double attack speed as usual. You can have some okay perks on this. It's nothing insane, and that's kind of that. Socket Slugger, I'm not experienced on. I think this is another one where I looked at the stats and just looked away. I'll put it in low B tier, high C tier just to be safe, but this is kind of a blind pick because I don't test every single weapon, because when you've used enough of them and you know how they behave and they're not uniquely different with any special 6 perk, you can just look at the stats and know what you're in for, and that one was not worth trying. Now, I don't know the name. Heavyweight, right? Yeah, this is the Art Deco weapon. It can do actually extra damage versus elemental targets. Pretty good. Actually pretty solid. As far as hardware go, it might be S tier. I don't want to get too excited, but I remember using this on day one and it impressed. That extra 44% damage versus an elemental target goes a long way. Is it better than the Husk Stomper? I don't know. Maybe less universal. I'd have to really try this weapon again to give it another crack, but it's available in Art Deco Llamas, which as a content creator dissuades me from making videos on it because it's not a weapon that almost anybody has, and there's no reliable way to get it without researching it, and there are so many weapons to research that you should research before this one. So I haven't really focused on it, and I haven't really been given a reason to. However, it's pretty good when I've tried it, and you might want to give it a try too. Walloper has a lot of fans. It has critics cause an explosion. It's got affliction. It lunges when you attack. I said the Lead Sled does. I believe it does as well, but I know the Walloper does for sure. And it's okay. It's not terrible damage. It's super slow swinging, so it really needs to hit hard to do anything. Its 6 perks give it some variety, but that's kind of it. And the Pipe Down paired very similarly to Mr. Red. That's why I got them confused earlier. Very similar damage output, but nothing spectacular, and that's just kind of the note of the hardware section. These weapons are mostly pretty avoidable. These top 3 are ideally the only hardware you ever use. Maybe the Husk Stomper. I did make a video talking about it doing big damage. I'm a big fan of that weapon specifically. And then maybe the Heavyweight. I'll give it like 7 weapons you should spend your time on with these, and the rest have not impressed me. If I'm wrong, comment down below. I am happy to admit when I'm wrong. I love making videos on that subject because people like to click a video where I'm wrong, and I like to correct myself because I don't like to give out bad information, as many of you might, be aware of. So yeah, I'd happily correct myself. I do update these videos yearly, not all of them, but on occasion I do. In fact, if you want to check those out, subscribe down below. I'll see you in the next one, and yeah, suggest what you want to see next. I'll see you later. Goodbye. I'm sorry this video is so late, but you can kind of see why. It's just hardware weapons. What did you expect?